First of all, dear Minister Fadi Hitmi, Minister for Jerusalem Affairs, it's a pleasure to see you among our guests here. Dear ladies and gentlemen, so many friends and colleagues I haven't actually seen for the past 16 months after I arrived here. Haven't seen only over virtual connections or have seen behind masks, hidden. For the first time, I actually have a chance of seeing each other face to face, person to person. That in itself is a major feast for me. It's a major privilege to seeing all of you. And I'm so happy to be able, together with my wife Astrid, who is hidden somewhere in the crowd, to see you. By the way, this will be not a typical normal Europe Day celebration. This is a celebration whereby we will also share with you moments and elements of culture, Palestinian culture. Now, we chose, of course, the Europe Day as the reason for meeting here. The Europe Day is on the 9th of May, for those who remember history. And because of Corona, because of conflicts and clashes in Gaza, it was impossible for us to hold it on the 9th of May. I hope next year we have a better circumstance for celebrating this, but we do it now in order to make sure that we also send a signal of hope. And, you know, when you look at the Europe Day, the key message for those who remember what happened in 70 years ago was that security and peace depends to a large extent on democracy and prosperity. And sometimes in life, sometimes in history, you've got to grasp the moment. You've got to grasp the moment, the opportunity. And that requires from all decision makers focus, commitment, resolve, cooperation, and a sense of compromise. Why am I saying this? Because this is also a message to the Palestinian people, also a message to the Palestinian leadership. I'm asking myself whether we aren't at a turning point in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Let's take a review of what happened for the past 15 or 16 months. It was the Trump plan, the so-called deal of the century, which was neither a deal nor was a centennial. It was very short-lived, luckily. We had the annexation threats. We had ongoing demolitions, evictions, settlement expansion, settlement violence, settler violence, disproportionate use of force, all which you had already before, but it was continued and it did not stop despite Corona. And then, of course, we had the evictions in Sheikh Jarrah, or the eviction threats, rather, of Sheikh Jarrah. We had the restrictions on the Haram al-Sharif and Temple Mount area. We had the outbreak of violence, and last but not least, and very sadly, the conflict and the war in Gaza. But we also had in 2020, 2021, something which was very important. It was that civil society, academics, think tanks brought a new narrative to the discussion. And I'm not saying this is the narrative the EU understands, but the narrative of entrenchment of unequal rights which Palestinians and Israelis enjoy. Some use the term apartheid. Several of the authors of this term, as it applies to the situation that are actually here. So all this created momentum that decision makers in Europe, decision makers in the United States of America suddenly say, well, what's going on here? Is there a turning point? Do we have to reflect upon what we are doing with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Can it continue for another 53 years? Is that feasible? So what I'm saying is it landed on the front desk of our decision makers in Europe and in the US and in Canada and elsewhere. And that is new because it was stalled, it was basically kept on the back burner for so long, for far too long. So is that an opportunity? So the opportunity may be that the call for equal rights for all, the call for Palestinian self-determination, the call for democracy for Palestinians becomes loud and clear. It was very unfortunate that the Palestinian leadership suspended or postponed sine die without a date the Palestinian elections. Very, very sad. And we very much hope that the leadership of Palestine understands the importance of giving hope and prospect for change and democratic legitimacy to its people. 52% of the people who actually registered as voters happened to be below 33 years. They never ever voted for their government. And it's important that they get that chance. So the prospectus of democracy, the prospectus of change, is intrinsically linked to justice and peace. There will not be peace without justice. There will not be justice without democracy. There will not be democracy without peace. This is a virtuous circle. It's important that Palestinians and Israelis alike understand this virtuous circle. Now, why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because we are here in Sheikh Jarrah. Among this group of guests, are very honored to receive our neighbors from Sheikh Jarrah. Can you just raise your arms? Where are my neighbors from Sheikh Jarrah? Please raise your arms. Thank you very much. I think it's very important that you're among us. It's a sign of our solidarity with you, or a sign of our support with you, our sign that we intend to uphold international law, our sign that your struggle is also our struggle. It's a struggle for and towards the equal rights for all. Whether you're Palestinian, Israeli, German, American, Jordanian, it does not matter. Whether you're a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. We all enjoy the same rights. I was very much intrigued by the initiative of two young members of the family of Sheikh Jarrah, Mona and Mohammed Al-Kurdi. Mona has 1.2 million followers. 1.2 million followers. It is so important that these young people of Palestine take up the struggle with peaceful means and basically bring out the narrative to the world, what happens here or what needs to be done. And in this respect, thank you very much, neighbors of Sheikh Jarrah, to be here. It's a privilege, it's an honor, and it's an obligation for all of us to stand by side you. So for me, this is also a moment of expressing hope, hope in the future. If I wouldn't have any hope, I should pack my stuff and go back to Brussels. No, I'm staying here, at least for another 2 years, until you let me go. And that is the time frame within which we have to operate. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for being here. I'm so happy and glad to be with you here. Thank you.